Hey everyone, it's Dr. V. I'm back with a weekly update for the karmic situation that your divine counterpart may be currently engaged in. And I'm actually doing an updated reading right now because I did one earlier and I sat with it and I felt like, there's something more that wants to come through, and I felt like it hadn't come through yet, and then it just did. So that's where we are. I'm going to go ahead and get started, and I'm going to jump into this reading around the current energies with your divine counterpart and their karmic situation. I've already shuffled, but I'm going to go ahead and shuffle on camera so you can see what's going on here. I've already set the sacred space, cleared the energies, got my mind right, so I'm ready to roll. So what are the current energies of the relationship between the divine counterpart for the listener and or watcher and their karmic partner? What are the current energies? Please, Spirit. Let's go. I always feel like that song, who's it, Funky Cold Medina? I think it is. Anyway, where it's like, he says, let's do it. Dum, dum, dum. Okay, so anyway, current energies. Stand your ground. Interestingly enough, this came up in the first reading I did earlier. Second is balance. The current energies in the karmic situation. Next is patience. Solitude. And passion ignited. So the current energies are pretty, there's a lot of big energies going on in this karmic situation right now. So we'll start here with the stand your ground. That's a spiritual card. It's it's literally about standing up for what you believe in, standing up for your values, standing up for your worth. That's a big thing too, is that it's like sometimes we get into situations where we don't necessarily, that maybe aren't for our best or highest good, right? This card is about there's a challenge that's happening. I get the energy of this relationship is just challenging right now. But the energy is really about standing the ground. It's like not giving up, not surrendering to the difficulties. So it feels like there's this kind of like both parties have kind of like dug their heel in, and they're like, we're gonna like see this thing through. And that's just the overall energy of the connection right now, is just kind of both standing their ground, and for better or for worse. And remember, this is just energy for this week. So what I'm getting, and what I got earlier, is that there's a lot of underlying tension, a lot of really like dissatisfaction, some discontent, perhaps maybe even discord that's happening. But it's one of those things where it's like, well, I said I was going to do it, so damn it, I'm going to do it, and I'm just going to stick to that. It's like, whether I'm going to do this whether it kills me or not. And it's like, okay, that's noble and all-ish, but it's also can be a little bit destructive. So this card is balance. It's an 11 card. So it feels like both are making, the energy of the relationship is trying to come into balance. It's also speaking to the fact that I think both parties are really aware that they need balance. So it feels like there could be really an imbalance in the relationship itself, that perhaps one is giving way more than the other, which I'm guessing is the karmic. I'm guessing that the karmic is the one who is, I say I'm guessing, but I'm not really guessing. That's what came through. That the karmic is the one that's really like over investing in the relationship, like really pouring out, giving a lot, and is really recognizing on some level like there needs to be some balance here. Like this can't be like, it's not sustainable if only one person is really investing. So there's this part where the energy is that the parties are recognizing that it's out of balance, and that some adjustments are going to have to be made if it's going to continue in any way, shape, or form. So that's the next energy that's present. And then there's patience right here. So the patience is like that both are recognizing the energy of the relationship is about being patient, being moderate, again, having some balance. It's about really, what I'm getting is that both energies in this reading are really trying to be patient. Like they are, there's some recognition that there's obstacles and there's challenges. They're trying to come into balance. They're trying to be patient, trying to see if they can see this thing through. So it's like they're not necessarily ready to throw in the towel yet. So they're both trying to be patient, but it's really, what I'm getting is that it's really difficult. And on an energy level, it may look great on the surface, but energetically, it's really difficult. Then this card over here is solitude. So what I'm getting from this card is that both the divine counterpart and the karmic really feel alone in the connection. They really feel like this is not, I feel alone, I feel isolated. It's like, yeah, we're in a relationship or we have this connection, but it's really, I feel alone. And there's really nothing, in my world, there's nothing more lonely than being around people and still feeling alone. And so there's that piece. And it's also a part of where I feel like both the energy is in a sense of like retreat, where both are going within and really assessing, like, here's the challenges, you know, how can we bring this to balance? Do we want to bring it to balance? Being patient and really reflecting on what is happening, and maybe even getting reconnected with source energy, really getting diving in and getting connected with the divine. It feels like there's a lot coming at this connection right now. So there's a lot of stuff that's coming up and things that need to be dealt with. So it could be like financial issues, along with the feeling the relationship challenge and other things that are happening where it just feels like a lot is happening. And so both have kind of retreated to their corner, and they're in a sense kind of licking their wounds and trying to figure out what to do to go forward. The last energy is passion ignited. So it feels like, at least on some level, that there is, let me sit for a second because there's a message trying to come through. Okay, so what's coming through is that the divine counterpart has had their passion ignited, that they have really started to come to life in their connection with their divine counterpart, and it's influencing this relationship. Because if you look at this energy, it's like when someone's like impassioned and they're like, you know, when they're with somebody else, in a connection with somebody else, whatever that looks like, and they're like passionate, and you can see it, and you can see like the excitement. And then on the other hand, over here, it's like solitude and withdrawal. So I feel like there's this kind of juxtaposition that's happening in the energy that is with the divine counterpart, but the karmic is aware of it. The karmic is like, okay, so here we're out of balance, there's this like emotional retreat, there's all this stuff that's going on, and yet over here there's this energy of passion and really like feeling great and moving forward, like the sense of purpose. And the karmic and the divine counterpart are both aware that that is directly related to the situation with the divine counterpart. So on the bright side, at least for this karmic connection, is that the passion that your divine counterpart is experiencing is also helping the karmic relationship in some ways, because when the divine counterpart is, when any person is feeling impassioned, it helps in all areas of their life, and that's what's happening to some extent there. So that's the current energies. Okay. So I'm going to do the divine counterparts cards on the left. So whether you are divine masculine or divine feminine watching, the cards for the divine, your divine counterpart will be here on the left. And I feel like, okay, I feel like there's 5 cards that want to come out with this. So Spirit, can you please let me know, please show us what's going on with the divine counterpart in terms of this karmic situation. Okay. The first one, children. Second, romantic feelings. Third, pay attention to the red flags. That also came out in the earlier reading that I did. Chemistry. And finances and career. So this is where the divine counterpart is. So for some of you, your divine counterpart may have children with this karmic, and that's part of what's happening. That's part of what's tying them together. If they don't have children with the karmic, one second, there's a message coming through. If they don't have children with the karmic, this is about like inner child stuff. Okay, this is about unhealed wounds from the past. The next card that came out is romantic feelings. So what this is telling me is that the divine counterpart, excuse me, I'm feeling a little under the weather, so is still has some feelings towards the karmic. They're not, it's not like they're completely over it. Like there's still some romantic feelings that remain. Like they still have some lingering emotional ties to their karmic partner. The next one that came out was pay attention to the red flags. So they're like, yeah, there's the kid, there's children or that child energy, there's the romantic feelings, but they're noticing like there's a lot of red flags here. There are things that are coming up. There are things that are cautioning me. There are things that I'm paying attention, that the divine counterpart is now paying attention to and noticing and not ignoring anymore. But there's still chemistry there. There's still a strong magnetic connection. And so they're still being, the divine counterpart is still being pulled toward that karmic situation. And the reason I re-recorded this is because I had a very clear message from Spirit that about needing to look into what those karmic ties are, what it is that's continuing to pull the karmic and the divine together, so that you as the divine counterpart can help them heal that and resolve that old karma. So this to me is it's about karma. It's about that chemistry to keep pulling, that keeps pulling them back. So it's like when you're in a karmic situation, I don't know if you've ever been in a karmic situation, but it's like it is magnetic. Like you just keep going back to it until the karma is resolved, and then you can move on into a different thing. And so this is telling me that there's still karmic ties that need to be resolved. And there's also this is another aspect. It's like this karmic situation has probably mixed finances in some way. There's some material considerations that are being considered by the divine counterpart in the situation, that, you know, it's maybe financially tied up with the other person, with the karmic, and it's feeling like, well, it's just not so easy to just up and leave. So with these two cards here, those are saying that there's real practical concerns that are happening in this karmic situation right now. And that's what's really, those two things are what's really kind of holding it down, holding it together. But then there's this too. There's still some love there. There's still some, you know, romantic feelings, and then there's that karmic tie. But the divine is paying attention to this. So, Spirit, can you let us know? Can you reveal where the karmic is toward the divine counterpart? What is the energy of the karmic toward the divine counterpart? Spirit, what is the energy of the karmic toward the divine counterpart? One more shuffle and then we'll jump right in. Okie dokie. Okie dokie, artichoke. I just looked over at my clock and it's 5:55. Go figure. Attraction. You attract romantic love by enjoying this moment fully. Stay optimistic about your love life. Very soon. Express your love. Worth waiting for. This actually makes me feel kind of sad, to be honest with you, looking at these cards, because I'm looking at this and it's like this energy over here, the divine counterpart is really, it's very practical. It's very, you know, it's very measured. Like there's one romance card in there, but it's not like, you know, great. It's just romance. It's like, oh, this is, so it feels like it's like a small, like a tiny aspect of the connection for the divine counterpart is based on romance. The rest of it feels like based on practical concern, and they're mindful of the fact that there are some red flags. But the karmic in right now is like, you know, I get this, like this attraction card is, I really feel like the karmic is in a space where it's like, where he or she is like trying to do their very best to keep the attention of the other person. So it's probably of the divine counterpart. So what I'm getting is that they're like bending over backwards, which is suggested by this lack of balance up here in the overall energy. Like, I'm not going to stand up for myself. I'm not going to have a whole lot of boundaries. I'll let you kind of do whatever you want, kind of run all over me, because I want you to be attracted to me. And I fear that if I say no, if I set boundaries, if I assert myself, that you're, you know, not going to be attracted to me anymore. So it feels like almost like I don't even like this word, but it feels like a desperate kind of clingy energy. Because they're trying to stay optimistic. They're trying to think like, okay, if I just keep being patient, then they're, you know, this divine counterpart is going to love me. If I just keep, you know, working on this and being the person that, you know, contorting myself into being the person that they're attracted to, then they will eventually come around. And they're hoping that that eventually coming around is very soon. Like, the karmic is kind of still invested, but I think I get as kind of like, okay, but, you know, this has been going on for a while, and like something's got to give. And so they're expressing their love. They're trying to give signals and messages that they want this union or connection to continue, or to even go to the next level. So, I mean, this could be like dropping hints about engagement. If they're married, it could be dropping hints about, you know, having a baby. There's something that's going on where they're really trying to express their love to the divine counterpart. They're really trying to, you know, make the romantic gesture because, again, they want them to be attracted to them. And they believe that this is worth waiting for. So they have invested a lot of time, maybe not a ton of time, but enough time that they feel like they've invested. They feel like it's, excuse me while I get a drink. They feel like, you know, I've gone this far, I might as well see, you know, I'll see this thing through. This is going to be worth it. It's going to be worth it in the end, because, you know, they're staying optimistic and they're hoping that it's going to happen very soon. That's the energy. And I said it makes me a little bit sad because it's such a juxtaposition to what's happening over here for the divine counterpart. The divine counterpart is not in that space. Like I said, there's a little bit of love there, or romance, like romantic feelings. Like, it may not even be love. It may just be like that they still want to have intimacy and want to have sex, but there's not like passion and love. But this person is really trying hard to cling to that. They're really trying hard to make that happen. And yeah, that just, that it may, I mean, and why I said it makes me sad is because it's like, you know, you should never have to beg somebody to love you. If you're having to beg somebody or manipulate somebody or contort yourself into 100 billion different shapes in order for someone to love you, that ain't love. It's not love. You don't, if you have to force it, it's like there's this meme that goes around. It's like, if you have to force it, like, you know, yoga poses, relationships, jobs, friendships, ponytails, if you have to force it, freaking let it go. It's not supposed to be. And that's what it feels like. It feels like this energy is the karmic really trying to force a situation that was that wasn't meant to be and isn't meant to be, and still yet trying to make it happen. Like, stop trying to make fetch happen. It's not gonna happen. Or you could force it, and you could, you know, the karmic could force the situation and the divine counterpart could go along with it, and then they'll both be unfulfilled and maybe not miserable, but not what is available for either one. So what Spirit instructed me to do earlier was to pull out this deck that I'm shuffling right now, which is the Shadow Oracle of Shadows deck. And because I feel like there's some kind of serious karmic tie that's happening from a past life, that's what keeps pulling them back together. Past life, even if you don't believe in past lives, I'm wondering, you know, you don't have to make, it could be collective, unconscious, whatever, but there's some kind of karmic tie that is really keeping them bound together. And the Spirit's like, you need to dig into that, because that's something that, knowing that information will be very helpful to viewers. So let's jump in. What is the karmic tie, Spirit? Okay, so the first one is caution. These cards are really cool, by the way. I love them. Love. The shadow. Vigilance. And ancestors. All right, cool. So here's what just came through from this series of cards is that the part of the karmic tie connection is that that perhaps in a previous connection that there was love between the two. Okay, there was a connection. Like they may have been in some sort of, you know, we're just going to go with past life because that makes sense. Excuse me right now. In a past life, there was love. There was a connection. It doesn't necessarily mean it was a romantic relationship or it was a, you know, it could be something, but there was a love connection. And so let me tie these two together because this is what I really feel is happening, is that in that experience that there was, so in this connection, the love connection, that there was something that happened. Okay, so it was something that like, and you guys just have to bear with me if this sounds weird because it feels weird coming out, but it's making sense spiritually. So I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna roll with it. It was like in a past life connection, perhaps there was love. And then something happened, and the person that is the divine counterpart in this existence is feeling like they weren't cautious enough, they weren't vigilant enough about things, and it cost them that relationship and that life. So it almost feels like, you know, like they were not paying attention and like their baby drown or something. Sorry, that's kind of morbid, but or that they invited someone into their home and that person ended up like hurting their family. And so it feels like there's this sense of like real duty and obligation to keep the connection safe, based out of this old karma about protection, being careful, you know, being vigilant about things. And what's also present here is that this karmic situation is directly related to the shadow. The shadow is the unprocessed, it's the dark side. It's the unprocessed, unconscious material that we all have, but that we don't deal with. And so what this is telling me is that part of what binds this relationship together is the mutual willingness to ignore the dark side. It's the mutual willingness to just pretend like nothing is happening. It's the mutual willingness to ignore the shadow side of life. It's like that's part of the karma in this situation, is just like, we're just gonna both go along like la-di-da, everything's cool, everything's fine, when deep down both are like, no, this is not cool, this is not fine, what the F is actually happening here. And this card, to me, the ancestors, it does suggest to me, again, that past life ancestral experience, that there is something that is connecting them from past life energy. It feels like guilt. It feels like guilt, duty, obligation, that one or both parties failed in some way to protect the other or to take care of the other. And so now there's this like overcompensation in this life of trying to make up for what happened in that particular situation. I hope that makes sense and it resonates for you. It feels a little bit out there for me, because I don't usually read this way. So where is the counterpart, your divine counterpart, in his head space? Mental conflict. I think I said his, but I meant their. Triumph. And positive movement forward. So the first one, mental conflict. I'm going to scooch these up. Scooch. Is scooch a word? We're just going to pretend. I mean, it is, I guess, but whatever. We're just going to roll with it. So the divine counterpart is in mental conflict. It's like very clear that there's a lot to process. There's a lot of doubt. Should I stay or should I go now? And that's sort of where they are. They're like, I don't know what's going on. Feeling a lot of that energy, like it's just probably not sleeping well, a lot of anxiety, maybe even some feelings of depression, just feeling this constant mental conflict around this situation. However, they're also in a space of moving forward. So their soul connection, their soul and their connection with their divine counterpart is sort of like pushing them forward a little bit. Like they're like, okay, I'm recognizing that something, there needs to be some forward motion. And that if they take the steps that they're guided to take intuitively, that they will triumph. So there is this mental conflict, and there's also this realization that something needs to change and something needs to go forward. So what is happening is that the divine counterpart is really trying to get that mental balance and that clarity to be able to move forward. It's literally about like forging their own way. I'm thinking of Fleetwood Mac. I was listening to Fleetwood Mac yesterday in the car. You can go your own way. So the divine counterpart is really about like kind of taking the lead, taking their power back and moving forward. And then there's this positive movement forward in the material world. So this divine counterpart is really in a space of getting really prepared to move forward. So whether that's moving forward in the connection with the karmic or moving forward in a different arena, like mentally, there's a lot of mental conflict, but they're ready to move forward. They're ready to make the changes, to do something different. and recognizing that it's their efforts that will get them the outcome that they want. But they have to get in touch with their soul. That's what just came through, is that there has to be, I'm going to move these out of the way so you can see, there has to be a connection with their soul. Right now I feel like part of this mental conflict is about the fact that they are, and they being the divine counterpart in the situation, in the karmic situation, is that they're at odds with their soul. Like they're, you know, like R. Kelly said, my mind's telling me no, but my body, or will you soul, is telling me yes. And so it's like in their minds, they're like, they know that where they want to be, and it ain't in this karmic situation. But like they know that in their heart, they know that in their soul, but in their mind, they're like, oh, but I have all these other things. And so it's creating this mental conflict, but they know that they need to move forward, and they're really preparing themselves to move forward. So where's the karmic in mental space? Oh, geez. Interesting. The first one that came out was sacrifice. I mean, this poor soul. And I really do mean that. I really do have a lot of empathy, because it just feels like, gosh, you know, sacrifice. Like this is someone that's like I'm going to sacrifice in the short term for the long term, hoping that that things will change, that this will come to pass. This is where this person is like really being in a state of sacrifice, and also recognizing on a soul level at least that that all of the best efforts that you can make to control a situation, that you really can't control it. Like so yeah, so the divine or the karmic is really in a space of self-sacrifice, sort of like I get this like martyrdom energy. It's like, you know, trying to control the situation, and some level recognizing that it really can't be controlled. And then the next card is suffering in silence. So this is a person who really is not happy, and is not saying it, like, because again, like I said with the other cards, it was like if the karmic starts expressing their discontent, then they're afraid that the divine counterpart is going to be like, cool, well then, you know, if you're not happy, you can go. And so they're really trying to, the karmic is really trying to like maintain a facade, this happy, you know, everything looks great on the surface, but they're really suffering quietly. Like on the inside, they're really in a lot of pain. Mentally, they're hoping for a material harvest. They're really hoping that, again, that their patience, that their sacrifice will pay off. They're really hoping that is going to be the outcome, that they're going to be able to, you know, love this counterpart enough to bring the harvest that they want. They really hope that that's what's happening. Yeah, that's what they're thinking. Like, if I just keep persevering, keep sacrificing, keep suffering in silence, eventually it'll pay off. But it also is a number 9, which means endings. So there is a possibility that mentally that the karmic is really kind of like, pondering about whether this connection is going to last or whether it needs to come to an end. Okay, so I'm going to just pull 2 for heart space, because I think we did a little bit with that already. So the masculine is stepping into masculine. The divine counterpart is stepping into their power and ready to get some recognition and reward for, that's just where they are. I don't get any, excuse me, I don't get any sense whatsoever that the divine counterpart is really even spending a whole lot of time thinking about this karmic connection. They're just trying to get into their own power and get to the next phase materially where they feel recognized and rewarded. Where's the heart space for the karmic? Accelerated motion and memories of love. So the accelerated motion card is about, you know, endings to an ending to delays. Like there's something that is going to come, like if the energy in this connection has been stagnant, and so that feels like it's going to come to a head at some point here soon. That there may be sort of a, you know, shit or get off the pot kind of moment that's happening where it's like the karmic may be holding out hope that the relationship is going to, you know, shift and become what they want it to be. But they're also kind of in the space of like, you know, like something's got to give. That's just what keeps coming through, is like something's got to give. Because this can't be, it can't continue as it has. And so that's just the message that's coming through. And there's also a lot of memories of love. So again, this person is in a very different state than the other person. This person is like really trying to hold on to the connection and really trying to push it forward, and is doing that basically. And I really get this is like based on memories of love. It's like not even necessarily what's happening right now. It's about what has happened in the past, maybe even what's happened in like past life energies. But there's this idea of they're like holding on to the memories of what was there before. How they felt in the very beginning, or, you know, they're clinging on to like little snippets of the situation and not really looking at it in the whole, and not really honoring the fact that they're suffering right now. So the last card I want to pull is basically like what's coming down the line for this connection. What's ahead? What's the future energies? Not distant future, like immediate future. This is this reading is a weekly reading. So, what's on the horizon, yo? Spirit, what's on the horizon for this connection? BT dubs, just for the record, the divine counterpart literally didn't have any, other than that one romance card, didn't have anything that suggests that there's an emotional connection whatsoever with this karmic situation. It's literally about like material things and karma. What's ahead? Legacy of light. Heaven sent. This is the Sacred Rebels guidebook. I am not going to read all of these because this book is hella long. That's the only way I can say it. It's like these descriptions, like Alana Fairchild's stuff is great, and it's super long. It's like, ain't nobody got time for that. I don't have time to read 3 pages of interpretations. Okay, so this one, interestingly enough, is about ancestry. Okay, it says basically, like what it's telling me is that it says if you're asking a particular question and drew this card, then part of the answers to your question is that the issue at hand is one of utmost importance to your spiritual growth. So what I'm getting from this is that the situation is still remaining as it stands, even if it's at a stalemate, because it's part of both of their growth, and it's also part of the divine counterpart who's watching this. It's also part of your growth. It's helping you to accelerate and to understand a number of things. First of all, knowing your own value. So if you're in a third-party situation, knowing your own value is often something like, you know what? You don't get access to me as long as you're doing that. So yeah, we can be, I'm not cutting you off. I'm not going to not be your friend. And I'm not saying that we're not going to, that we'll never have contact again. But what I'm saying is that you don't get to have You don't get to eat your cake and have it too, which is actually the right way that that phrase is supposed to go. People say it the other way. What is it? They're like, you don't get to have your cake and eat it too. No, that's backwards. It's actually, you don't get to eat your cake and have it too, which means that you don't get to eat it and then hold on to it too. And so what this is saying is that part of this is about the watcher, the person who's watching this video, on behalf of their divine counterpart, recognizing their own worth and recognizing their own ability to be unconditionally loving, and also honoring their own sacredness, as well as their divine counterpart, right? Because it's like, we want our people to be the best and highest versions of themselves, and if we're engaging with them in unhealthy dynamics, we're not helping their growth, we're actually hindering it. So the next one is legacy of light. I mean, heaven sent. Jeez, I just like... Okay. A spiritual gift is something that happens through grace. So there's a spiritual... This is a spiritual gift that's happening in this situation. This is like the universe knows what is needed and how to make it come to pass. So there's some spiritual gifts that are coming through this. So I'm getting like intuition is being heightened in one or both parties, self-worth issues, deepening spirituality. There's a lot of gifts that are coming through. And so even though the situation may not seem great on the surface, there is a deeper purpose to it. And that's the important piece to acknowledge. Let's see. This is also saying, like, let yourself be helped, okay? So this is also about, look, I think both are being guided to get some help. Like, both are being guided to go deeper within spirituality, and they may even be reaching out to other people to help support them in this journey, because it's challenging. And then the last one is big, bold vision. So you were not born to play a small role in life. This is about cracking out of limited thinking, allowing the vision to come. So part of this is like, is that one or both parties are, I mean, they both are, because it's a karmic situation. It's like, it's not based on deep, authentic love. It's based on karma. It's based on lower level things like fear of letting go. It's like fear, codependence. It's all of those things. But both of them right now are kind of breaking out of that and recognizing that maybe there is more to life than this sort of energy. Maybe there's more than what I thought was available. And so I really get the sense that both in this situation are kind of rethinking the fact that maybe they've been settling, and maybe they don't want to settle anymore. Maybe it's time to allow themselves to dream a little bit bigger, and to realize that it doesn't have to be the limited situation that they have been engaging in. It could be that there's something more available if they would just allow themselves to access it. So overall, the energy of this particular connection right now feels honestly like it's just on shaky ground, that there's like, there's not a lot of love holding it together. There's karma, there's fantasy, hope, there's all of those things, but it's like genuine connection, genuine love, genuine compatibility, not so much. And so there's this energy of perhaps clinging on, holding on too tightly to something that needs to be let go, and also great fear and conflict and somewhat of an unwillingness to acknowledge that and take the necessary steps. And that's just the energy for this week. However, what I do also get with this big bold vision card is that one or both parties is kind of like starting to recognize that there's more to life than this. And as they allow themselves to engage with that question and that thought, it kind of highlights the absence of that in the current situation. So yeah, that is the reading for the karmic situation for this week. Let me know if you have any questions. Comments always welcome, and if you need a private reading, feel free to reach out to me in any of the ways provided. Alrighty, talk to you soon. Bye.